I'm presenting the feminist movement, and my name is Cassie Honeycutt. My introduction. The feminist movement has had many stages throughout the decade. Each is shaped by social, political, and economic conditions based on the time period that the wave occurred. The first wave began in the 19th century and has evolved into the fourth wave, which is currently happening. The current wave deals with digital activism, social media backing, organizing common people. The focus of this wave is addressing sexual harassment, gender-based violence, reproductive justice, and digital misogyny. The fourth wave emphasizes the significance of intersectionality, unity, and relationship building in feminist activism specifically. And in this presentation, we're going to dive into each one of those focuses that the wave hones in on. And yeah. Okay, so let's start with media trends. The first media trend is gender pay gap and workplace equity. Gender pay gap, lack of women in leadership, and workplace discrimination, specifically based on gender. And some examples are women breaking barriers, women advocating for equal opportunities, forming public discourse on gender equality in the workforce. And I included a article for a lady breaking a barrier. Let me see if it will let me click on it. It will not. But, well, if you'd like to look at that, please feel free. Feminists critiqued and challenged sexist stereotypes, objectification, and misrepresentation of women in marginalized genders in media, advertising, popular culture, and literature. They really advocated for diverse and inclusive representations that reflected the complexity and diversity of each human life, because everyone doesn't have the same experience. They advocated for the equal rights and opportunities and treatment of all individuals in all genders regarding each aspect of society, specifically education, employment, healthcare, and political representation. So basically, just don't say no to someone based off of their gender, but also education, employment, healthcare, and political representation. Another media trend is the Me Too movement and sexual harassment. The Me Too movement began in 2017 and it exposed hundreds of instances of sexual harassment and assault across many career paths. Examples are survivor stories and their legal battles and cases to hold assaulters and harassers accountable. One of the most famous ones that I can think of is the gymnastics coach, Larry Nassar, that had assaulted multiple of his patients, not multiple, many of his patients, and how some of them, being Olympic medalists, took the stand and testified against him. And throughout that, the media documented that case, the legal proceedings, what happened to Larry, what happened to the survivors, what the survivors said when they took the stand, etc. The last media trend is reproductive rights and health. This entails debates and legislative battles regarding reproductive rights, access to health care, contraception and abortion, and maternal health care. They're constantly changing and being shared by the media, just like life changes every day, so does these things. Some examples are women's stories of navigating healthcare, groups advocating for reproductive rights, and debates ending legislation being signed. Feminists really fought for reproductive autonomy, access to contraception, abortion rights, comprehensive sex education, specifically starting in our schools. So when kids learn about it in school, they'll know about it when they grow up. If they're being instilled when they're young, it'll stay with them. Maternal health care and the right to make informed choices about one's body and reproductive health. The main fight for this was that it is up to the woman to make the choice, and all of these should be available to them regarding of their circumstances. Media tactics. This is 3 media tactics, and the first one is visibility and representation. Organizations and activists use media platforms to intensify the voices and stories of women. And they helped challenge stereotypes, fight disregardment, and showcase intersectional feminism. The second one is awareness campaigns and advocacy. Another tactic was starting awareness campaigns, rallies, and protests, basically just getting attention out and creating a movement. And then all 3 of those allow a chance to advocate for policy change, challenge stereotypes, and raise awareness about the movement. The goal was for the advocacy was to influence public policy, legislation, and institutional practices related to gender equality, reproductive rights, violence prevention, and other feminist issues. The third tactic is online activism and social media. This served as necessary tools for activism, catching the average person's eye, online petitions, and stories. So getting the word out once again. This allows resources and connections to be shared among the masses, rally support for the movement, and create online communities and safety networks. Social media nowadays is a very powerful platform. Once you share something, it is shared with your friends, sometimes not your friends. Once one person shares it, it starts a domino effect. Media platforms also entails, like, obviously social media, but art, literature, music, film, and they can serve as a tool as cultural criticism, consciousness raising, making people think, and storytelling. And specifically, they challenge dominant narratives and reimagine alternative visions of gender power and social change. But with all of this, there are weaknesses, as in strengths, but that's the next slide. The 3 main weaknesses are backlash and resistance, intersectional challenges, and absorbent abuse. This is all within the media. Specifically, backlash and resistance. Movements that face backlash and resistance from individuals and groups threatened by works to challenge inequality and break down the patriarchy. Everything in this world is not everyone's gonna agree with everyone. So obviously this movement my personal opinion, because it challenged traditional matters, this is why backlash was so overwhelming. Intersectional challenges, this emphasized the correlation of gender with other aspects of identity, so political, race, etc. Media coverage, though, really overshadowed these intersectional relationships, and privileged voices got to speak on the matter and discards just throwing away movements and conversations about the movement itself. For absorbent abuse, mainstream media and corporate companies take in the feminist language and symbols for marketing reasons. At the end of the day, they're appealing to the masses and not just a sole group. Movements must move through tensions between ordinary activism and marketable opportunities to maintain their values and morals of work behind the movement. So it's really up to the company or the organization or even the person to pick their side and see which one they're on. For strengths, we have cultural shifts and deviation from normal, legal and policy reforms, and community building and unity. There are many more, but these were the 3 that spoke out to me the most. Cultural shifts provides general stereotypes and expectations that have changed due to the movement. There's been a push for something, so it has occurred. Media coverage normalizes these conversations, though, and cultural shifts from the past. Yes, they're still compared, though. Legal and policy reforms, activism and advocacy have led to multiple new legislation, specifically to promote women's rights, workplace discrimination, sexual harassment, reproductive rights, and sex-based violence. The coverage, though, on this has been on the wins and the losses, but obviously in the positive, in the strength side, the wins, and the ongoing or new coming campaigns that continue to build public attention and engagement. Um, and the most important aspect, in my opinion, is community building and unity. These movements have adopted a community environment where unity and common support is fostered not only in person but online as well, like through social media, how I mentioned earlier. And then media platforms provide safe spaces for women to share, find resources, start a campaign, and strengthen relationships. My conclusion is the feminist movement employs media tactics to raise awareness, push for support, and advocate for gender equality and social justice. In addition, media coverage helps raise issues and bring attention to average people and address challenges the world brings. These two are essential in advancing the goals of feminism and creating a more welcoming society for everyone.